All right, all right, all right. So yeah, somebody was telling me, they said, man, you need to get on Facebook Live. I mean, that's where everybody is. And I was like, you're right. Okay, which camera? Okay, so let me just explain what's happening here. So I have my backup recording just in case whatever happens. And also I get it, so people can look at it later on. And also it's better quality, etc. And then I got Facebook Live going on right here. And that's just to share it right now, why it's actually happening, so we can share this vibe. I don't even know what day it is. I don't even do time. So I guess I just know it's 10:26 a.m. over here in Costa Rica, and it's an amazing time for all of us. I just, if you're not dealing with relevant news, on that way, if you see me look over here, it's because my camera is over here, okay? So if you see me do relevant news, it's because something is going on, because generally I'm on a whole nother thing. I'm building the future for all of us. And the great thing is already built, meaning that I've actually completed it. As of, I guess, 3 days ago, I completely cracked open the entire thing. And I put an entire formula together for open source well. And I started rolling out all the applications. I just didn't conceive it. I manifested it into the plane. But before we get into that, I have to address something that I've been seeing going on. Now, remember, my thing is that I'm reporting to you the expansion as I'm going through it. It's always been that way. So I'm not your guru. I'm not your God. I'm not any of those kind of things. I'm pushing the power back into you if you try to put it into me, because that's how we roll. That's how we continuously cycle this energy. And that's what we're all doing. It's like, you the man, you the woman, and then you may say that back to me and I may say it back to you, and then we just start hyping each other up and it goes to an entirely different level. What I've been noticing since, the Matrix is the Matrix. The Matrix is going to do what it do, especially the fake Matrix. They want everyone on their tarot. So because of that, there's been this, obviously this pelting going on with the reality for those who haven't learned how to go within. Like you have an exoskeleton that's called your aura. So whatever comes down on top of that, I don't care if it's even nuclear weapons, it's only going to serve to strengthen the being unless you turn the field in the opposite direction. So I've been noticing this trend, especially since we're going into the eclipse. I've been noticing this trend, and this trend is that many people have started to sign back up with the gods again, even within our network. I just, remember, we have 14,000 people, 28,000 eyes. So it's really easy for me to see what exactly is going on. And I've been watching people that get a little shaky, or they're just slipping a little bit. And then they're like listening to this external broadcasting frequency that's always been going on, which I'm going to show you today, of these same archetypical external God energies. And then, they're doing more PR now, trying to get that energy reserve that maybe you've been preserving or maybe not, trying to tap that again and get you set up for the change of guard. Because there's about to be a change of guard. And that's what this eclipse is really about. So the first thing that I want to tell you is, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And many people are falling for the banana in the tailpipe, meaning that they're falling for that whole, hey, tap you on the shoulder over here. You look over here, but they're really over there. So let me show you how it works. So, okay, first of all, there's some things that we need to clear up here. And whether you realize it or not, it's actually something that you're not going to realize. It's something that you have to know. And you have to know. Hold on real quick. Turning on my timer here real quick so I'm aware of what's going on with time. Because I got 20 minutes basically. You have to know that you were never born and you will never die. And you can't believe something like that, because belief is based on knowledge, not wisdom. So you have to know you never die. Okay? And the reason for this is that if you start slipping again and believing that you actually died, then you'll get caught right back up into this whole system again. And the reason for this is because we've accepted birth. Now, we don't want to accept death. We don't like death. We accept birth, right? And we're associated with birth, the daytime, youth, young. But see, birth is the entry. Just like they say, the birth of the ocean is where it spits everything out right there. So where were you before this? Where were you before the birth? Because surely you existed then. And on top of that, there is no such thing. That's why the wisdom and the knowledge of earth is always finite, because it doesn't know where nothing comes from. It can't even fathom how that would even work. It melts down its entire system of seeming to know and figure out everything. So what this means is this means you have to be aware that really you didn't have a birth either. So this cancels out death. So that's one secret. Don't believe in birth so you don't have to believe in death, because that's the yin and yang cycle. We love, 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 but we don't realize that sets us up for the hate. We can stay right in, we can stay clear. You get me? Like somebody say, you're clear? We're clear? Okay, so watch this. Again, for those just tuning in, if you see me looking over here, it's because my main camera is here, and that's where the backup is. So if I'm looking over there, you say, well, why is Evan looking at us? So you're catching this. But it's just because I wanted to make sure that this was live also. And, I'm not counting on Facebook's technology, however, to make sure that this gets broadcasted today, because it's very important, okay? So today, as you see the title, The Metaphysics of Racism, and it's just because, I keep getting these emails and all these different things, and everyone wants me to come in and reiterate what I had already said about this entire thing. But of course, things have changed, so I can reiterate it in a better way to really show you very clearly what's going on. So that's what I'm here to do today. And then plus, it's important, I've realized, to stay relevant. And two, for all those on the spiritual path to say, oh, well, why do you even focus on that? Well, first of all, I'm focusing on sovereignty. It doesn't even take me focus to figure this out. This is something that I already know. Okay. So it brings us to the perspective, though, of realizing that actually for those of us that are in the know, or quote unquote conscious, whatever that means, there's still the plethora of people, the masses that actually are not adapting to that right now. Let's say it's at least 90% to be conservative, still going off with the archonic external forces and the gods and quarreling with each other. That's where they're at. So that means that, let's say at best, we make up 10% of the people in the entire world. And if for somehow you believe that that's like enough to say, okay, we did it, you're like celebrating even before we're starting to win the game. So what's happening right now is still the masses are still gradually waking up. And so that means that if we're not covering neophyte information, then you can't even pick those people up that are just starting to become aware, because why? They're neophytes. Okay, fight. Okay, so there's a lot of quarreling and duality going on. So they're still just becoming awake to the matrix, trying to step to the person that Morpheus was meditating to and ask, if we're going to jump back into neophytism. So I say, how much energy does it really take? Well, for me, nothing. There's no vested interest as far as the value of what illusionary realities have. If you don't devaluate yourself to thinking that this is so much more bigger than you, then you will have the currency necessary to start getting into the massive cosmic expansion of yourself as who? The soul. Okay? Experiencing yourself as a soul. Now, if you just want to give yourself, a little comfortable answer about where did nothing come from, we can immediately start going through the gates of light. Okay? So the gates of light mean the first portal is the sun, not the moon. The moon is actually the refractor. That's why it's that size. That's why it's positioned like that. That's why it has that history. It holds all of the lower spectrum vibratory dense frequencies, which we call memories, which we call what we do at nighttime, the netherworld and the shadow. That's the memory bank for the shade. Okay, which is the moon. It's the refractor. So what happens is now all these beings I'm talking to you about are inside of you. And it's better for you to realize that and start instead of getting into the external side of what these forms are, because there are some external versions. When we look at something, believe in something, hope in something, it creates something. That term is egregor. There's plenty of recordings about that. But when you're looking at, when you think about the external, and if you're like, well, if it's all inside of me, but there's an external version, which one should I be dealing with? Well, that's a no-brainer. You should be dealing with the one that is inside of yourself, or else you won't be able to contain it. So many people have wandered off to the external versions of the sun, and the Christ myths and all this, the external crystals. And then other people have wandered off to this external moon god, Nanar Sin, and all the rest of what goes on with it. And then the other planets, so too, they visualize them as being external, and thus what was brought forth was eidolons, or basically ideas of what people think that these beings are that they've created, and then they start to move on the volition based on what people believe they are, and that became the consecration of the gods, which is simultaneously the consecration of the human beings. So when the soul is refracted, remember the soul is infinite. It's not even on a spectrum. So no one here on the earth is Vanta Black. Go look it up. It's the blackest of the black. And no one here is Snow White. Okay? Now, this is where the game begins, because if one race is supposed to be known as the black ones and the other people are known as the white ones, this is the beginning of the lie, because actually most people are more like pink, brown, dark brown, purple, not Vanta Black and Snow White. Okay? So this is the first error of attempting to assign colors to races. So what are the races? The races are when you go in from the soul into the prism, you're refracted now, you're divided. That's why people always say, well, I'm everything, but they don't see that. They wonder what's going on. And it's because they're in a universe. This is where they've arrived. They even confirm, universe told me. Okay, simple knowledge. Uni 1, verse 2. There's another word actually that shows you that there's even another realm. Unify, right? Unify. 1, 3, okay? So this is something that you have to take to university to start digging deep into realizing what that means. But just like the 12 zodiac and the 12 months out of the year and all the different cognates of 12, the clock, the time, it sets the system. And so if you don't realize the system itself, then you become lost in your own system. And that's why when you don't know your body, your mind, and your soul, you'll get lost. If you don't know this, you can never know this. You can never even learn too much about this out here in the matrix and learn then what's going on in here and try to connect them until you first make the connection within. And we call that innerstanding. If you don't understand for something, you're going to fall for everything. What happens when you come into the prism, uniqueness is created. I love giving it this word because now we've called it race, but I call it uniqueness. It's what makes me different than the person that's next to me. Okay? And this is interesting because back in the day when we were all working together, everyone was trying to bring out the uniqueness in each other because we knew that once a person came in, they were going to bring a big piece to the whole thing of wholeness, and we could all then keep celebrating. It was like one big party. As long as everyone had a vested interest in helping you or assisting you in unlocking your uniqueness, generally by showing you how they unlock theirs, okay? So when that system's going on, then everyone realized actually their uniqueness works at all of our benefit. Versus in this world that we're dealing with now, where there's no more realization of that, this means a person's uniqueness actually makes another person feel threatened and feel in jeopardy of something, okay? I may need to get some water here in just a moment. So what I mean by in jeopardy, it's like you come in with your uniqueness on the job and the dude that's supposed to be training you is like, you're going to take my job. And you come in with your uniqueness into something you created, everyone's just hating on you like, I don't think that that's the truth. Well, you can't think about truth. You need to know truth. Okay? We're amongst the realm of those in the know. And the know is now being broadcasted on Facebook Live. So check it out. When we refract ourselves, what we immediately become is we become what you see when light is shined, when the soul light is shined into the prism, it breaks up. Now, of course, this is the pyramids, right? This is the pyramids of what was built out there as a symbol to show, man, even the ziggurats have the same construct of the base pillars and all of the different segments of what is created when you split yourself into division. One moment. Thank you. Now what happens is because, and that's why I was explaining to people, you actually live in different worlds. You live in different dimensions, and you get a glimpse into those dimensions when you change your lenses. When you go to sleep, you change this dual lens you use, and you go into this other lens that's literally like a projector. It can show you in other worlds. Where are those other worlds? On these spectrums, on these parts of the spectrum. And when you're in just one, we call prime, it's very difficult for you to realize that you also exist in these other ones. Only master meditators, people who've ascended, those kind of people start to become in full realization that there's other ones running. And you're actually encouraged to collapse these in order to bring power into your prime so you can actually manifest something. But most people stay divided, and that's why they're always in judgment. They don't like this and they don't like that, and they see this and they got to complain about that, and they only can base things on contrast. But who are they really judging? Themselves. So this is what happens. As the light's going into the prism, the things become split. But what this creates is, see, red is not like orange. That's where there's a cutoff point. Orange is not like yellow. There's a cutoff point. And what that creates on all levels, and we're just talking metaphysics here, is it creates a separation. This is why if grandma dies, you have a hard time communicating with her. But really, she's just gone into one of these frequencies. And if you had access to that frequency, you could actually hear her. And so this is big, because what we're actually looking at here is that in this refraction and these frequencies and the spectrums being created, we've also identified the gods. Like simple systems is understanding how this connects with the days of the week, why there's 7 days of the week, and why the 7 days were consecrated to deos or entities. Right, on the external level, but the ancient esoteric knowledge talked about it as being what went on in the internal levels, where the harmony, which was an oath, a covenant, was created for all of the beings to actually, all the colors and all the spectrum to bring themselves into unification. And that unification, the symbol of that unification is the rainbow. Okay, and this is why in the ancient, because it's actually Sumerian text, it says, my rainbow will be a sign of the covenant, because each of these bows are known as an ark. Okay, and that's why it was called the Ark of the Covenant, right? So this arrangement or agreements which everyone bound themselves together on so that it can accomplish something that could never be accomplished unless they came together. Sound like the human story? It's because it is. It's not the story of external gods. It's the story of the war going on within. When you actually care about your face more than your spleen and your heart. You actually care about your butt more than you care about your own organs, right? And this is the war, because you care about what your taste buds feel more so than what your pancreas. Person throws some soda right in there. And then burn up every single enzyme and everything else, natural bacteria, etc., in their stomach. Stomach's like, man, we're going to war, because that's what's happening, right? But then there's also this external war, which people seem to be focused on so much. That same banana in the tailpipe, that same, hey, look over here, because let me show you something. The Schumann resonance is 7.83 hertz. Okay, what the Schumann resonance is basically the frequency that the Earth is on. Okay. So this Schumann resonance, go and look it up. How this is judged is based on when lightning is striking the earth, because lightning is striking the earth all the time. It rings the earth like a bell. And that's why there was always this affiliation with this thunder god, Zeus, throwing lightning bolts, because it's talking about a phenomenon that occurs even within the body. The body's electric, where we throw these rods and it rings us like a bell. And this bell causes an overall reverberation in this plane. I dare not say a sphere, for we get into an argument, even though it is, there's external bubbles all around it. The 7.83 hertz is achieved by that. Okay. On Easter, this went to 90 hertz. Check it out. There's actually a way to see the Schumann resonance all the time in real time. So on Easter, it went to 90 hertz. Why? What was going on? Well, during Easter, everyone was running after that rabbit Trump, trying to blow the final trumpet on the world. And there was the whole Hurricane Debbie. There was the St. Petersburg bombing. There was the Russian took the 100 gay men and killed all of them. There was Trump defying the LGBT rights. There was Russia, and the Trump scandal went to its peak. So everybody was just, oh man, all the energy was just being devoted towards that, because really This whole thing is a change of guard. The actual being within you can wake up, or you can wake up to external terror. That's why I say you either wake up to external happiness or external torment. And it's just saying when it's time to wake up, you need to go into your being, not something else's being. Okay? Because transition is going to happen. I should wear a shirt. Transition is going to happen. There's no one here living forever on physical finite planes. There's something else going on beyond. So we would always have to prepare ourselves for that. And how you prepare yourself is fulfillment. Realizing that you got the t-shirt here already through your existence once you start coming back into your uniqueness and your sovereignty. But let me keep going here. So what happens is now we're about to be on one of the grand energetic pushes in these cyclic changes of this clock in the sky. And it's at the eclipse. And if during that time, I'm not saying you got to go and do the ritual. I'm not saying you have to do anything but keep yourself balanced and centered, and don't allow your energy to be diverted towards all these external things going on with the beings who do not realize who they are. No lives matter in this world that you're looking at, in the game that they're playing in the Matrix. There's no such thing actually as life or death. When you keep buying into these games, it only is like, okay, you accept that, now you get that. You get yin, you get yang. There's something beyond this that we can reach. But first, you have to allow your thermometer to charge up, meaning that you got to allow that energy inside of you, which is very similar to a thermometer. You need to allow that to charge up. So, you may get like, and that's literally what it sounds like, going up your spine. Because you've been doing you've been focusing, you've been, eliminating negative things or imbalanced things. I should say it like that. And then all of a sudden something will happen and you'll drain all of your energy on something that's going on TV, something that's going on somewhere that you can't do nothing about. Because do you have even the resources? Do you have the spiritual power? Some people, they love to pat themselves on the back. You got to make a sober estimate of yourself. Do you have the wherewithal and the ability to raise an entire nation? To raise an entire world? What would it need? It would need an entirely new system. You wouldn't even be able to depend on any of the stuff that came out in the past because it all has energetic signatures tied into it. Misinterpretations. It has, you go into religions and all these different things. There's so much animosity and hate. Let that go. There's something even greater, and that greater is us. We ride on the tip of the sun. You can't even draw a human body, but that's where we normally are, experiencing things as they come in. So again, realizing the racism, there's something that you need to realize here. This is the spectrum, okay? And what the spectrum is that it allows for finite planes and physical realities to remain with this kind of variation where all of it can be put together. Each one of these are forces, okay? And these forces also tie into your organs. That's why the word organ, this is 484 terahertz root chakra. Okay, all the organs that are down there move at that frequency. Same thing with all the rest of these that you're seeing here. Those are your internal archons or gods or primordial forms, which they were known as. Primordial forms that held up the foundation and built the foundation. That's why they call it Temple of Solomon. They say, oh, Solomon made the demons build the temple. The demons were the diamonds, were the daemons, which gives us the 666. These were the carbon-based molecules, carbon-16, carbon-12, all those different carbons that actually make up the building blocks to physical realities during the transition phase. So, as the masters will tell you, just like Dynamo Jack, if you collapse all the chakras, meaning get rid of all of these judgments and start unifying your field internally, then you'll have the power. Then you'll have, I can show you the videos of the power where you can push ice from one hand and fire from another hand. And then that's just only the beginning. Imagine what's happening in the world that people think is called dreams when you have enough fuel to actually power yourself beyond the moon. Meaning that in the astral sleep, I'm looking at my time clock here, we got 3 more minutes. In the astral plane, what the astral plane consists of during lucid dreaming is you jettison from here. And generally, you only have enough thrust to get to what they call the first heaven, all right, or the 9th heaven, who cares? And you're then standing out there, and it's like you're standing on nothing. You can't even stand on anything because there's nothing there, but you need more thrust. For those who've experienced this, that thrust of getting into other spaces actually comes when you charge up your energy by not getting drained here. Last thing, remember, especially in regards to this presidency, the Trump situations and all this, I'm going to have more videos about this. So it's a good idea to subscribe. Also, for if this went over your head, but you still feel like there's some connection with this information, I'll leave some links in the description. Get in the university, invest in yourself, actually really do something about your situation. This is still about your soul. If your eyes close, my eyes don't close. So that means there is something that you still need to figure out for yourself, not for everyone else around you. And then likewise, this whole money thing that people are dealing with, that's why I said, let's take a moment, all this power, all this knowledge that has been gained, all this wisdom, and let's fire it into demystifying this whole financial situation for everyone. Because after all, if you got to spend 50 to 60% of your day catering to mammon, then how could one ever have the opportunity to build with themselves if what they're doing is diametrically opposite to what it is that they're trying to achieve? It's like you're sending mixed signals, so you go nowhere. So we've created open source wealth. There's another link in the description right below that. Understand how this new training actually puts you in a whole nother dynamic to understand with a group, with tribe, with endorsements, with clients, with products, with materials and things that have been studied by professionals and put together to give to you. That's what you've been missing. That's what the technique is here with us getting together and using this, what's going on in the whole racial situation, as a means to spark up this kind of conversation that we're having today about demystifying what is the external and the internal version of this. Again, the external version of this is the gods, and why it's not smart to go wandering after something that you think is external to you. It's all inside of here. So I want to say wholeness and balanced vibrations. Keep checking us out. Like I said, those on YouTube, subscribe. If you're just catching this on Facebook, like the page. And we're about to get to this because you know what I'm saying? It's like I could talk about metamaterials. I could talk about unlimited bandwidth. I could talk about the quantum teleportation of the Time Lords. I could talk about all of the aspects of the sacred geometries, the mathematic ratios and quotients. I could talk about the mandibulbs and the fractal fields, the internal and the external planes. I could talk about the battlefield of Arunja. I could talk about the synchronistic connection within everyone's name. I could talk about all of these different things. But what does it all mean if the people that are listening already know it? We have to get to the people that don't know about this. And so I land the ship once again because behold, I can take it down and build it back up easily.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next generation of science.
Is there any way in which one's mind can be